This is an ABC News special. Prejudice, answering children's questions. Now reporting from Studio One in New York, Peter Jennings.
Good morning and welcome, especially those of you who qualify as being young, whatever that is. For this is a program in which we hope to hear mostly from the young about a subject that some of we older folks should know more than we do. We're going to spend this morning talking about prejudice, as in to prejudge other people because of what we see on the surface. You know, as a country, we often boast to the rest of the world that we're a rich, cultural melting pot. The truth is that for too many people in this country, it too often feels like a frying pan. Instead of celebrating our differences, which makes us a strong nation, we ridicule them, which makes us weak. It's our hope this morning that you're going to meet some children you might not ordinarily have the chance to know. Some of them have been wounded by acts of prejudice. Others have done the wounding, perhaps even without knowing it. I don't know about you, but I've heard prejudice described many ways, including as the child of ignorance. Our goal is to teach that child a thing or two.
What's so bad about being different? Why do parents teach their kids to hate? How do you become prejudiced? Why do people call each other names?
We're talking about an all-out race war that's been going on for years.
I am your last chance. Listen, Jews.
White power! White power!
All of you will be killed outright.
Why do people think that all black people are criminals?
Are all Jewish people rich?
Why do Asian people have slanted eyes?
Are boys really smarter than girls?
It's almost a big extreme. Whites against blacks, blacks against Asians.
I think Adolf Hitler was the greatest man that ever lived.
Do all Indians live on reservations? Why do people think all handicapped people are stupid?
What difference does it make what color I am?
Why do store owners always follow me around?
We're challenging you to get rid of those tomahawks.
With AIDS, God is eradicating and wiping out the Jews, the Negroids, and the queers. It's wonderful.
Why do prejudiced people want everyone to look the same?
Why don't I see people like me on television?
Why are people mean to me?
When all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty,
Why can't people like me just because I'm me?
Well, we're going to be here for the next 90 minutes, and I think we've got a lot of questions among ourselves here, but those of you at home can also call up if you've got questions or opinions, and here are a couple of numbers you can call: 1-800-648-8094, 1-800-648-8094, and there's a very important special second number under there, which is 1-800-323-9831 TTP. Now, those of you who are hearing impaired or deaf or speech impaired know that if you call that second number, can we put it up once again, guys? 1-800-323-9831 TTP. That's for those of you who are deaf or hearing impaired or speech impaired, because we want to be able to hear your opinion or your question about prejudice today. I want to find out, first of all, who's got the microphones? One there, one there, one there, because you got a lot of work to do, right? You got to cover for all the kids on either side of you. Let me go up there to Jessica up there beside you. Jessica, have you got any idea what prejudice is?
Well, prejudice is treating people different because they look different or are different in any kind of way, if they're not different from you.
What about Nicole right next to you there?
I think that prejudice is judging somebody because of their color, their skin, or because they're different from someone else.
Okay, what about Jeff down in front of you here? Jeff, what do you think?
I think it's prejudgment on a person because of the way they look or some physical stature.
Anybody ever been prejudiced against you for any reason, Jeff?
Yeah. because I'm half Chinese. And people, when I walk around sometimes, people pass by and say, like, ching ching chong chong or something like that against my language.
How does that make you feel?
I think it's really horrible the way people can just act like that because you speak a different way.
What do you do about it?
Well, I go to different walks and organizations that help against this kind of stuff.
So you try to stay away from people who are prejudiced against you, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about that this morning. Let me go over here for a second. Where's our microphone holder? What's prejudice mean to you? What's your name? I can't see because of your hair. Danielle. Danielle, what's prejudice mean to you?
To me, it means prejudging one on one's looks or race or color, or just if you don't like them, your handicap.
Happen all the time?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
It does. Now, you mentioned handicap. Here's my friend Michael over here. Michael, what's prejudice mean to you? I don't know what we do about a microphone for Michael here. Come on, I'll hold it. How's that?
It means when people hold a grudge against you for something you can't help.
And do people sometimes hold a grudge against you because you're in a wheelchair?
I wouldn't call it holding a grudge. I would call it recognizing the fact.
And what's the fact?
That I'm in a wheelchair.
And do they pick on you because of that?
They stare.
That's not very nice, is it?
No.
Make you feel bad?
Not really. I just pretend they're uneducated.
Good for you. Good for you. Now, I can't help but notice, give the microphone to Mary Ellen there, if you would. I can't help but notice that some of you kids here have got green collars on today. Want to tell me about that, Mary Ellen?
Well, the people with blue and green eyes, we had to wear a green collar. And so, to separate us from the people with brown eyes.
Why'd they want to separate you?
I don't know.
Anybody else want to volunteer as to why they were separated? Yeah, Victor here in the front row. Why did they separate the brown eyes and the blue eyes?
I think they did that because they just wanted to show you how black people were treated back then when somebody looked and they made a funny face at us and other things.
Oh, really? Tracy down here in the front, how'd it make you feel to wear a green collar this morning?
Well, it makes you feel different from everybody else, and everybody stares at you because you're different and everything.
I mean, how'd it make you feel?
Well, bad. You feel like everybody hates you for something you can't help.
Ever happened to you before?
Not really, not that much.
Somebody pick on you this morning?
Kind of, for wearing the green collars.
Who picked on you?
I don't know her name, the lady.
I know her name. Jane Elliott, come on out here for a sec, would you, Jane? Jane Elliott is an Iowa school teacher. And you're shaking hands with her, even though she's got blue eyes, right?
That's right?
All right. Now, for those of you at home, indeed, Jane Elliott and the blue-eyed and the brown-eyed children in here today had a pretty heavy-duty experience. And before we talk a little more to the students here, to the children here about it, let's let you at home see a little bit of what it was like. It wasn't always nice.
Now, people, today, we are going to act as though having blue eyes makes you inferior. Eye color and skin color are caused by the same chemical. If it makes good sense to judge people by the color of their skin, it makes equally good sense to judge them by the color of their eyes. We want these people to find out how it feels to be discriminated against on the basis of a physical characteristic over which you have no control. Every mistake they make today is going to be blamed on what?
Blue eyes.
The color of their eyes. What are you going to call these people?
Blue-eyed people.
Bluey. You're going to call them Bluey. And you're going to call the little boys Boy. And you're going to call the girls Cookie or Sweetie or Honey or Chick or Baby. Okay? Now, can you all do that?
Yes.
Hurry up. Hurry up. Come on, hurry up. They move a little slowly?
Yes.
I want you to look at the way these people behave. You can't walk and chew gum at the same time. This one, he stumbles over a milk carton. Get up there. Hurry up. You, sit there. You, there. You two boys, sit here with this one. Now, Cole, if you can't look at me without grinning, don't look at me. Drop your head so that I don't have to see you, because I'm not going to look at that silly grin all day. Do you understand that? I take it you don't understand that. Get down. go out in the hall and have somebody explain to you what you had better do today. Do it now. Goodbye, Bluey, yeah. Do we need to put up with that? Do we need to put up with that kind of behavior?
No.
Absolutely not. What are you doing? Sitting down at the Blue Eyes? Where have you been?
On the hall.
Why weren't you in here? Oh, yeah, they told her to wait out there. How many of you believe that?
She got lost in the hallway.
She got lost in the hallway. She's probably been out doing what in the hallway? Get over here.
Well, they might have told her left or right, and she went the wrong way.
Yeah, they probably told her to go left, and she went right. Yeah, well, blue-eyed people are definitely rightist. There's no doubt about that. Now, who's your friend? Oh, look at this, people. You think all blue-eyed people aren't alike? Get over here. Now, you get over here. They look alike? Yeah. They dress alike? Yeah. Their color schemes alike? Yeah. Look at their names. What are their names? Jennifer and Jenny. Blue-eyed people don't have much imagination, do they? They all name their kids the same. It makes it real difficult when you teach in an all-white community because all the kids have the same name. One year I had 4 Debbies in my classroom. 4 blue-eyed Debbies. You give these people nice things, and what do? Mess them up. Clumsy, careless, klutz, the original nerd. Now, people, you think that's funny? I don't think it's funny. Did you cut these collars? You know who did? I did. And I didn't enjoy cutting these collars. And I don't enjoy having her dump them on the floor after I put them on her. And I don't enjoy having these people ruin things that we've just given them. And I don't enjoy having her treat things as though they belong to her. As though they belong to her. This doesn't. Now, put your hair up so that I don't have to mess with it. Now, what's more important to this girl, being right or having her hair pretty?
Hair pretty.
Pretty hair. Get over there and sit down someplace. Scientists at the University of Southern California traced the DNA molecule back a number of years ago to find out where the first people evolved on this earth. And what they concluded from their study is that the first people on this earth were black people. And that every human being on this earth is a descendant of those first black people. Every single one of you is a descendant of those first black people. If you have brown eyes, it's because you have in your body the melanin that those first black people had in their eyes. So this boy is part black. You think he knew that until today?
No.
You think he appreciates it?
No.
No. You think black people have reason to be proud of him being part black?
No.
How many of you are proud of that? Do you know the first listening skill?
You gotta talk out of people are talking?
Is that the first listening skill, people? No. What's the first listening skill? Tell her.
That
Good listeners have
good ears,
quiet, mouth, feet. Good for you. Good listeners have quiet hands, feet, and mouths. Are you a good listener? Now, does she know the listening skills? No. Does she understand what you tell her?
No.
Does she do what you tell her?
No.
What do you know about blue-eyed people?
No.
They're dumb.
How many of you blue-eyed people think this is one mean lady? You can say it. She make you angry?
Yes.
Make you upset?
Yes.
You're mad at her? We'll get back to that in just a moment. Jenny, how'd you feel going through all that?
Well, I was pretty embarrassed. Everyone was laughing at me, and I felt really out of place. I didn't know what to do.
You ever gonna wear purple again?
No.
Devin, back up there in the corner. You gave Jane Elliott the meanest darn look I've ever seen in my life. Did she get you angry?
Yeah, she get me very angry.
Why?
Because she was making fun of us. She was making fun of all the people with light-colored eyes, with blue and green.
Think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Put you down?
Being prejudiced.
Put you down?
Yeah.
Let's give the... Frank, what do you think? You look right angry.
I'm not. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, she was trying to make a point, but I mean, the thing about like the first people being brown-eyed and all about Adam and Eve and all that, that was a lie. Or you said the first people here were brown, had brown eyes. Adam and Eve had brown eyes.
Yeah, Adam and Eve had brown eyes.
Okay. I wish it would say that in the Bible somewhere.
Well, I think you feel that where it says in the Bible, "Let there be light," that they were talking about skin color. They weren't.
No.
But here's the point. I think Frank, even though he's a bluey, has inadvertently helped us here.
Yes. Yeah.
You were trying to make a point, weren't you? This business about the blue eyes and brown eyes is a lie, surely.
It's an absolute lie. An absolute lie. The color of eyes that you have does not make you a better or a worse person. But the way people treat you on the basis of your eye color can make you act in a different way.
So what's the point you were making? We just asked you to come today and talk to them about prejudice. Why
Talking doesn't work. We've been talking about prejudice for the last 300 years in this country, and it hasn't worked yet. Talking is not the answer.
You kids have got the green colors on. You want to get them off? Gilma, you want to take your collar off? You want to take them off? Take them off. We'll be back in just a moment.
Prejudice. Who makes up the U.S.? Prejudice, answering children's questions, will continue in a moment.
Ask one or two questions before we do. And by the way, the telephone line, particularly those for hearing impaired and speech impaired people, are jammed at the moment. We'll try to get to you. But all you blue-eyed kids got to take off your green collars all the time. Richard, would you ever like to change your life? Would you like to take off your collar and keep it off? Okay. How about you, Shantea? Do you sometimes feel that you have a collar on all the time, the way people treat you?
No, I'm proud to be what I am, and
You're
I
proud
want
to
to
be
change
what
that.
you are. So it's important that we celebrate the differences, not just pick on them. Is that right? Okay. We got a phone call from Jack, who's in Colorado. Go ahead, Jack.
Hi, Peter.
Go ahead, Jack. Hi.
How do people get prejudice?
How do people get prejudice? Well, oh, look at the hands go up around here. That's a good question. Let's have the microphone go to Camille here. Camille?
I think the way people become prejudiced from their backgrounds. Like, what if their mother was prejudiced? They start looking up to their mother, and their mother start telling them, well, most black people aren't good because of their color or their race or their background. So the kids take it from that and start to turn to prejudice.
So you think we learn it from our parents in some cases. Where else do we learn it? Angela.
Society, it's in the media, it's everywhere you look. I mean, all the stuff that you're taught, the lighter things are, the better they are. It's everywhere.
Okay, Angela thinks it's in the media. Chris, what do you think? Give him a microphone. I don't know.
I think that it's like people just hanging out and they think because one person's doing it, everybody else should. So they make it like a bandwagon kind of thing.
Oh, so there's a group of one kids together, and they learn from each other. So you learn from your peers. Melia, over here, another place we learn it?
You could get it from your teacher because she could be prejudiced, and so you see that your teacher is prejudiced, so you could just be prejudiced.
Interesting. Because a teacher is a role model, right? A teacher is somebody we look up to. What over here? Anthony, let's have, what do you think?
It's like a domino effect. It's like a domino effect. If one person starts being prejudiced, another person sees it, and it just like keeps on going.
Anthony, you keep that microphone for just a second. Do you think if you and a black boy walked out on the street and did exactly the same things, you'd be received differently by other people?
Maybe if somebody doesn't like that black person or somebody's prejudiced against that person.
Anise, what do you think down here? Do you think if we had two boys walk around the street, they'd be treated differently if they were the same age, just teenagers dressed the same way?
They might be, they might treat the people differently. Mm-hmm. But in me, I don't think it's anything different. It's only the skin.
You know something? We wanted to know the same thing. We wanted to know whether a black boy and a white boy, by the way, even that isn't accurate because we're kind of all shades of brown, which we'll learn just a little later on, but whether or not a black boy and a brown boy, same age roughly, going out in the same place, would come away with the same experience. And so we gave them a couple of hidden cameras, and we asked them to go and watch what happened.
The perception of me that the people had in Westport was one of a hooligan, one of a hoodlum. I was walking down the street, and a girl was coming up, and she saw that I was coming down the street. You know, she stopped dead in her tracks, turned around and ran to a store. Also, while walking down the street, two ladies were talking, and as they walked by, the closest one to me grabbed their chain. I don't think I was doing anything at all that made them think that I was going to rob them or beat them up or anything like that. I think it was just because I was black.
When I walked past people, they generally made eye contact with me and smiled or acknowledged in a everyday fashion. It's basically just like if I lived there.
You have change for $1 by any chance?
I'm awfully sorry I don't. I asked people if they had change for $1, you know, so I can make a phone call. And the response I got was no, I don't have it. When Dash asked me for change, he got change, you know. People were pulling out big, fat clunks of money and were searching through their stuff and not worried that Dash was going to grab it and run. Another day, we went shopping in Short Hills, New Jersey. And I thought it was going to be like every other mall, you know, shop, you eat, you have fun, you chill, you know. But as I walked from store to store, I noticed a man who seemed to be tailing me. When I walked in a store, he usually came in like, you know, maybe a minute afterwards. And the thing that popped into my mind was that he had to be security. I mean, I have no proof that he was security, but, you know, I mean, the way he was behaving, you know, it made me think that he was, you know. And, I mean, I get that kind of stuff happens to me a lot.
How are you doing today, guys?
In Short Hills, everybody made me feel very welcome. And they treated me with good customer service. Asked me if I needed anything, what they could do for me. Generally, I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but they made me feel like I wanted to buy something in the store, really.
A few times I saw Dash in stores where he would be just browsing or whatever, and the store clerks, they just left him alone, you know, to leisurely shop. When I went into the same expensive stores that Dash had gone into, one of the salesmen immediately showed up on the side of me, and then, you know, he didn't offer to help me, but wherever I went, you know, he was there, you know, he stationed himself well so that he could see me and he could see exactly what I was doing. That made me very uncomfortable.
Well, these are the two guys, Dash and Donald, who went wandering around various places for us. You don't look very happy, guys.
Why should I be happy? I mean, look at what happened, you know?
It wasn't a fun experience.
Did we get it right on camera?
Yeah, I'm glad it was put on camera, too.
Dash, were you surprised what Donald had to go through?
Not really. I wasn't really that surprised. I've seen it happen a lot. In most of the stores, everybody was pretty, you know, happy with me. I just, you know, would ask them, you know, politely, and everybody helped me with whatever I needed.
Donald, do you go through this all the time?
Yeah. Anywhere I go. I mean, I could go into a store and somebody's right on my back, you know.
What do you do about it? You just have to cope
I laugh about it, you know. I mean, at first, you know, it hurts and everything, but after a while, it's like, it still hurts, but it's like, no matter where I go, this is going to happen, you know, so I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm not going to, you know, resort to violence and knock this person out. I'm just going to have to ignore the person.
Dash, you glad you were treated differently?
In some ways, yes, and in a lot of ways, no. I think it's really wrong that I should be treated, well, and him not, because there's no reason. We are both very polite. We both asked for the same, you know, things. There was no difference except in our skin. And
Donald, what if Dash had gone into a black neighborhood and asked for change, or gone into a essentially black store and tried to do some shopping? How had he been treated?
I think it'd be the same way.
For him?
For him, it'd be the same way.
As it was for you in the white?
No. As in for me, I was treated, he would be treated the exact same way. If we were to go to a basketball court, let's say, and we were to play ball, I'd probably be picked way before he was picked because he's white, you know?
Any of you other kids here had the same experience? You have? Yes, ma'am.
What I wanted to bring up is that when I was 16 years old, I had my head shaved and I wore a lot of black eyeliner and things. And I was tailed in stores, and my skin is white. And it's just a matter of fear in general. I think people are afraid of people that are different than them. It's not just your skin color, because I am definitely white, but because my hair was different and my clothes were different, I was tailed by shop owners. I was followed by security. I was asked to leave malls when I was 16 years old and not allowed to eat in cafeterias.
I must tell you, as a parent, we sometimes think our kids dress weird, but I think we don't always realize what the ramifications are outside the house. Thank you. We'll be back in a minute. Thank you, guys.
Prejudice, answering children's questions, will continue in a moment.
Once I was in a store with my mother, and I was minding my own business, and a woman came up to me and said that I shouldn't be in the store with my chair. And I was really upset at the time, but I was also young and I didn't really know what to say to her. And so I ran back to my mother, and by the time I came back again, she was gone. And I just was very upset because I felt that it wasn't fair to her to say something like that to me when it's just how I get around.
Prejudice will continue after this word from your local stations. This ABC News special. Prejudice, answering children's questions, continues. Once again, Peter Jennings.
I don't know about you, but we just knew coming in this morning that we were going to learn something and be ignorant as we went along about something. And Jane, thanks to Jane Elliott, we just missed something. Susan over here, who talked about going around in various stores in the uniform she was wearing at the time and with her head shaved, did it, am I right, Susan, by your own choice? You shaved your hair.
Yes.
You wore the clothes you wanted.
Right.
Donald, on the other hand, didn't get a chance to change his color, did he, Donald?
No.
So you don't get a different shot at it every day?
No. It's kind of weird, because a lot of people were complaining that they had to wear the green thing around their neck today. And my response to that was, well, at least you get to take it off, when you leave, at least you get to take it off later on, I can't take off my skin color, I gotta live with this,
Let's go to a phone call. Josh in Louisiana. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I don't see what all these black people are complaining about when they got their own churches and stuff and their own neighborhoods, and they're saying that the country clubs are discriminating them and all this other stuff. I mean, what's this all about?
Okay. What are the black people complaining about? Chris, up here, what do you think the answer is to that man? Where's the microphone? Isn't it Chris? No, sorry, right at the top here. Oris, I'm sorry. Oris. Idris. My apologies.
I think you're wrong because it happens every day. We all want to have something different, and we can't just stick. We want to find out new experiences by ourselves also.
And his question is, but you have your own places, right?
So, but still, people want to move around. I mean, this is still a free country, isn't it?
Okay, up here in the top. Wanda?
Yeah, you want to know what they're complaining about? You're right, they have their own churches, but they're not saying that you can't come into that church. If you want to go to that church, it's a free country. You can walk in and do what you want. The same way white people, they have their own things, but yet you can't say a black person can't do this, a black person can't do that because of the color of their skin.
What do you think, Kenyatta?
Most of the time when they say us blacks have our own community. So what? I mean, Jewish people have their own community, have their own stores, their own laundromats, and it's not like we saying no whites can't come in, no Jews can't come in. We're like all in the family. We're not telling nobody not to come in or not. We're not saying whites can't come in, and we're not even saying that whites can't even have their own place. They probably do have, their own community, but nobody knows about.
So you think Joshua down there is being prejudiced, do you?
Yes.
You all think he's being prejudiced?
Yes.
Well, stay with us, Joshua. Let's take another phone call from Tennessee. Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead, Tennessee.
After living together for so long, why can't we as a nation all live together without judging each other by what's on the outside or what's not on the inside?
Well, that's a pretty general question, I must say. I'm going to call on a big person here for a second, if you don't mind. Galen Kirkland over there is a lawyer, and we won't hold that against you, which is a prejudiced remark, right?
Well, that's right. That's all right.
But some time ago, Galen came upon a black boy who had been killed, as I recall, Galen, just because he was black in the wrong place at the wrong time. Is that fair enough?
That's true. And
you decided since then that you would try to bring people together, kids together. You've been doing it for about 3 years, right?
That's right.
How successful do you think you're being?
Well, Norman Siegel and I decided that we were going to team teach in Bensonhurst, which is in Brooklyn, where Yusuf Hawkins was tragically murdered back in 1989. The purpose was to do more than just to have a march or some type of a ceremony, but to do something lasting, to talk to young people about civil rights and race relations, to answer some of the questions that have been phoned in about why we have this prejudice, this problem with violence, the history of racism, defining those terms, sharing the experience of being discriminated against so people can begin to think about the important questions. Somebody said earlier that talk hasn't done it, but talk can be very important in allowing people to understand what the problem is.
So your answer to this lady's question is, in part, you got to start and you got to make building blocks. Right?
Absolutely.
And you have to understand about one another.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's essential.
Yeah. How many of you know why some of us are called black and why some of us are white? Not too many. I didn't know that either. And so we asked Michael Gillen, who's the science editor at ABC, to come and tell us, Michael, about color. Would you start?
Yes, sir, absolutely. You know, so much of prejudice depends on skin color. We've heard that already this morning, that I wanted to explain about skin color. And I wanted to start by something that we've done since we were kids, and that is to play with Crayolas. You've all done that, right? And you learned at that time that there were 3 primary colors, yellow, blue, and red, from which you can make all the other colors of the rainbow. Well, it's the same sort of thing with our skin. Take a look here. There are only 3 colors that produce all the shades of all the people in the world. Only 3, and I have them here. This one, for example, all of us have some of this clear liquid in our skin. It's called keratin. All of us also have some of this yellow chemical in our skin. It's called carotene. Asian people have a little bit more of this than most of the rest of us, and that's what gives their skin a little yellowish tinge. By the way, it's what makes carrots also have that yellowish orange color. And then there's finally this brownish chemical that's in our skin, and this is called melanin. Melanin is really important because it's like a brown curtain in the skin that blocks out the sunlight. Now, black people have a lot of this melanin in their skin, but surprisingly, white people have this as well, because you cannot have perfectly white skin. Why not? Because if you have perfectly white skin, there's nothing to block the sun. And that means the skin is going to get burned and have skin cancer. In fact, that's a big problem with albino people who have absolutely none of these colors in their skin. On the flip side, there's no such thing as perfectly black skin either. Why? Because when the sun goes into the skin, it interacts with the chemicals there, and it makes vitamins that make you healthy and make your bones strong. So if you had perfectly black skin, no sunlight could get through, and you couldn't be healthy. That's why most of the people in the world have shades of skin somewhere between perfectly black and perfectly white. Now that leads to the second question. Where did we get all these colors in the first place?
Just going to ask you.
Yeah, well, Peter, I have a little videotape that I've put together. Do you mind watching it?
I would love to.
Take a look. Caucasoids. That's a fancy word for what we commonly call white people. Negroids, otherwise known as black people. And Mongoloids, the scientific term for Asian people. Different faces, different races. But why are the races so different looking? Well, it has to do with where our relatives came from. No, I don't mean our parents or our grandparents or even our great-grandparents. I mean our relatives from 100,000 years ago, our ancestors. Take skin color, for example. Scientists think there are about 2,000 different kinds of people, each with their own skin color, somewhere between pure black and pure white. How did you end up with your particular color? Well, it depends on where your ancestors originally lived. Max's ancestors lived in northern Europe, where the sun is weak. In fact, during the winter, the northern sun hardly gets above the horizon. So, in order to make full use of what little sunlight there is, Max's ancestors developed a very light brown skin. Light brown, not white. Deepti's ancestors lived in India, where the sun is very hot. In fact, summer in India can get as hot as 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So, Deepti's ancestors developed a darker brown skin for more protection, 10 times more protection from the sun's ultraviolet rays. Delroy's ancestors lived in Central Africa, where it's even hotter. So his ancestors developed an even darker brown skin for protection. It's darker brown, but it's still not black. Delroy's ancestors also developed bodies that were tall and thin because that's the perfect shape for radiating away heat and staying cool. Annis's ancestors lived in northern Asia, where the winters can get very cold. So they developed bodies that were short and rounded because that's the perfect shape for conserving heat and staying warm. In other words, Max's, Deepti's, Delroy's, and Annis's ancestors were each perfectly suited for the part of the world they lived in. And now, 100,000 years later, they've all inherited some of that perfection.
Well, Michael, I must say you make things wonderfully simple.
Well, thank you, Peter. It's important enough. And I want to say this, that there were pure races 100,000 years ago. Those are the ones I described. But now, 100,000 years later, there has been so much mixing and matching and moving around that now scientists estimate that there are not just 3 or 4 races, but about 2,000 different kinds of people. And so one of the wonderful things in this country, I have to say, is that we partake of all that perfection in one country. And in 26 countries, I understand, are represented in this audience alone.
We have 26 here today, and I bet we could keep you alone for the rest of the day answering questions. But we got time. Anybody want to ask Michael a question? Yes, sir. Frank.
What about sickle cell and autumn disease? Is it just black skin or just
Yeah,
juice?
that's a really good question, Frank. Sickle cell anemia affects mostly Negroids, black people. Did you know that sickle cell, the gene that codes for sickle cell anemia gives you protection against malaria? If you live in a warm and hot and humid environment, like in Africa, you need protection against malaria, and that gene for sickle cell anemia protected them against malaria. Unfortunately, the other side of the sword is that it also can produce anemia, and especially in this country where malaria is not a problem, that's the thing you most
Who else has got a question here? Yes, ma'am. I can't see your name from here. Go ahead, give her the mic. Who's the microphone? Go ahead, I'll translate for you.
Okay.
What's your question, dude? Tell me.
Well, I don't know why. It's also how people act besides how they look. That's something with me.
It's also how they act, how they look, right? Well, that's for sure. Can you give us an example?
Well, you see, I have got a little problem because I sometimes act a little crazy and people make fun of it.
You think they should do that? I don't either.
Because I sort of can't help it.
You think people are going to learn today maybe they shouldn't make fun of you?
No, just because I act differently from other people. Like the average person always acts polite and stuff. Well, that's not always the way I am. And people make fun of me just because of that. Like the boys at my school.
What do you tell the boys at the school?
Well, they call me names. And they also make fun of me in some ways that I can't explain, really.
Okay. We actually have a question for Michael from quite some distance away from a young lady who we've actually wanted to meet. So we're going to take you out of the studio for a second. We're going to take you out west to Montana. Take a look up on the big screen here, because that may not look very familiar to you, but there at the northern end of the Crow Indian Reservation, near a place called Lodge Grass. Anybody recognize that? That is the Little Big Horn. That is where in 1876, Native Americans and Custer fought the famous Battle of the Little Bighorn. And there is a new friend of ours. Hi, Curry.
Hello.
How are you? This is Curry Smell, who's a member of the Crow tribe. You've got a question for Michael?
Yeah, I was wondering, he said that that the blacks were, I don't know what he called them, but we wanted to know what Native Americans were called, what our race is.
Well, I think she meant, Michael, that you called black Americans among Negroids. What would Native Americans be?
That's an interesting question, Curry.
I hope you know the answer.
Yes, I do. Technically speaking, American Indians have their ancestry as Mongoloids. That is to say, originally it was the Mongoloid people who migrated across the Bering Strait, that is the part of Russia that comes close to the Alaska. They crossed that Bering Strait and into North and South America. So your ancestry is Mongoloid. But that happened only, you see, about 10,000 years ago, we think. And you have adapted to the new environment so that you don't have only Mongoloid traits. You also have some Caucasoid traits. But there is no single term that I'm aware of that applies solely to American Indians. But that's the point I was making, that there has been now so much mixing and matching that we don't have technical terms anymore for every different kind of people. We would have to have 2,000 different kinds of names.
Curry, I'm very glad you asked that question, and I'm very glad we've now seen you, because we're going to come back and talk to you in just a minute, because I think Curry's going to make the point that there are all sorts of people in this country who feel somehow that they live behind walls and that they're different than other people and treated like that. But I have one question, Michael, that a lot of people have asked me in the last couple of days watching you work. Why do Asian people have slanted eyes?
You know, Peter, everybody calls them slanted. In fact, they're not. It's just that Asian people have larger upper eyelids than most people, and that was because where they lived at some time in the past was very cold, also very dry and windy with a lot of dust. And so they developed this extra large upper eyelid to protect their eyes from dust. But what's something important to keep in mind is that beneath that larger eyelid, the eyeball is exactly the same in Asians as it is in any other kind of people. But it's that extra protection.
So what we've learned from Michael today is that all of our bodies, our shapes, and our colors make sense. We'll be back in just a moment.
Prejudice, answering children's questions, will continue. This ABC News special, Prejudice, Answering Children's Questions, continues. Once again from Studio One in New York, here's Peter Jennings.
Well, we've been talking quite a lot in the last couple of segments about the relationship between what we call white people and what we call black people. Do you all think this kind of prejudice happens to other people, not just black people as well? Oh, boy, look at those hands up. Do you think it happens to famous people or just happen to ordinary people? What do you think, Nadia?
I think that it does, because they are also different colors and races and believe in different things. So people are prejudiced against famous people, too.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether you are a little person or you're a famous person, it can happen to you well.
No difference.
Really? Take a look at that screen up there. I want you to meet one of the most famous people around anywhere. Do you recognize her? That's Christy Yamaguchi. Christy Yamaguchi skating up in Albany, New York in preparation for her show. Hi, Christy.
Hello.
How are you? Can you come on over and talk to us for a moment?
Sure.
First of all, we all want to congratulate you on your gold medal. The whole world has done that.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us just a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm Japanese American, fourth generation, and I've been skating for about 13 years now.
And have you ever in your life experienced what we call prejudice here today?
Well, I haven't really been too aware of that. I was always so focused in skating, and I had my goals set for myself, and no matter what happened, I just kept working towards those goals.
But sometimes people are pretty ignorant about you, are they?
No, I was growing up, and we were a pretty Americanized family, and my brother and sister and I always felt that we were just part of the group of our friends. We had friends of all different races, so I really didn't feel prejudiced too much at all.
I'm told that some large adult reporters, though, after the Albertville games complimented you on speaking English so well, right?
Yeah, that did happen a couple times. They've come up to me and say, wow, your English is you speak English so well. But I'm like, well, I am American and I'm fourth generation, so I actually don't speak Japanese.
Now, am I right, Christy, that both your parents were born in internment camps in the United States during World War II?
My father, his family was in an internment camp, and my mother was born in an internment camp.
And what did they tell you about that when it was over?
Actually, they really don't speak too much about it. My grandmother told us a little bit about it, but she really likes to look forward into the future and not really think too much on what happened back then.
Okay. Well, I think you're a wonderful model for the rest of us. Anybody got a question for Krista? We got time for just one or two. Yes, sir, up here, right in the corner. Take the microphone, yes?
I read in a newspaper once that she couldn't go on any American commercials because she has some Japanese blood in her.
Is that true, Christy?
Well, that mostly started after the Aberville Olympics, I think, and you know, I really didn't think it didn't apply to me because you know, I went over to Aberville with the USA, and I came back to the United States with the gold medal for them. And, you know, I didn't feel like any of, you know, the Japan bashing or whether it should have affected me in any way.
Okay. We've got one more question for you from David, I think it is. Go ahead, David.
Was it hard for you to get on the United States Olympic team?
It was hard in a way that it was a tough competition, but as far as being held down because of being Japanese, not at all. If you remember in '88, there was Debbie Thomas, who was a minority as well, and Tiffany Chin before that. So in skating, there was really no prejudice at all against being a minority.
Well, you're really nice to let us interrupt practice today. You got one word of advice for all of us here about how we might escape from this mess of prejudice?
Well, I think, you know, growing up, if you have a dream like I did, set your goals to it and don't let anything distract you from making those dreams come true.
Okay, Christy Yamaguchi, thanks very much.
Thank you.
By the sound of Christy, she grew up in a really strong, loving environment. But I think it's true that sometimes people are expected to do things because of what they are. I think some Asian kids in this country are expected to be certain things because they're Asian kids. We asked Ken Kashiwahara, who's a correspondent for us, a Japanese American living in San Francisco, to try to tell us a story about that, and here's what he found.
To many, 13-year-old Van Tu and 17-year-old James Lee may look alike, but they come from very different worlds. James immigrated to New York City from Taiwan when he was 10. Last year, he became an American, but still does not feel like one. Van was born on a boat her parents used to escape from Vietnam and came to California. Unlike James, she feels she has adjusted to her life in America. But as Asian Americans, they both have something in common. They have felt the sting of prejudice from their classmates.
Like, oh, you chink, Jap, or gook, you know. A lot of stereotypes, like I know Kung Fu.
They were making up names or something like that.
Like what?
Like calling nips or something like that.
James writes poetry, mostly about pain, because that's what he experienced growing up.
Staring into the eyes of pain, I was blinded by the glare.
In school, he was expected to be a genius in math, simply because he's Asian. He hates math.
I remember that the math teacher used to hassle me about, you know, how come I can't do this work, and which was really ridiculous.
James says he felt pressured, he felt alone, so he joined a Chinese gang.
I felt like I fit in for the first time in my life when I joined a gang, because here we have a group of young people who looks like me and kind of have the same kind of problems.
But when he watched two of his friends get shot, and later when he was arrested for carrying a gun, James Lee's world finally crumbled. He attempted suicide twice.
I think a lot of it has to do with my mom in school, and how she always expected me to do good in school, and with friends and who I couldn't fit in with.
Van Tu puts pressure on herself to please her parents. She goes to Vietnamese school on weekends, and she wants to succeed in America because her father had 3 jobs and was on welfare when they first came to this country.
And I really need to try my best and everything to make my parents feel happy.
Why?
Because they have given up so much for us.
After a painful beginning, Van Tu says she now feels comfortable about her place in America and wants everyone to see her as a normal teenager.
I just want to be perfectly the same as other people. I don't feel different, and I don't want to be different. I mean, we're all living in the same country.
And that's the way James Lee would like to be treated too. He is finally getting his life together, but he still desperately wants others to accept him for what he is, not for what they expect him to be.
And I just wish sometimes these people can be there to see how upset I am, you know, and how bad I feel about myself when I don't feel like I'm a part of this place I live in, this place
I grow up in...
I remember when we heard James say that the first time, is how sad he felt that he didn't feel a part of this place he grew up in. Do any of you kids ever feel that you don't belong to this place you grew up on? Yes, no? Yes? Yes, no. Bobai, I know you're a Korean. Yes or no? Do you identify with James in any way?
Well, when I moved from Long Island, I used to live there when I was young, and then I moved to Queens. I've been living there for a few years now, and I don't know, people still stare at me while I walk down the street when I'm with my friends. Most of them are Spanish and, you know, black. I don't really hang out with Asian kids because there's not a lot in my school. Right. So, you know, people look at me weird when I'm walking down the street or going to stores. They just stare at me. They don't follow me, but, you know, they just look at me weird.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to be back in just a moment. Come here. What do you need? What's on your...
Prejudice, answering children's questions, will continue in a moment.
The first day of school was especially hard because I was going to a new school, and people there did not know me. They mispronounced my name, misspelled my name, and teased me about my name. Hello, my name is Africa. And when I tell people my name, they automatically assume I was born in Africa. I was born as far away from Africa as possible. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but I call New York City my home, and these are my friends.
Prejudice, answering children's questions, will continue after this from our ABC stations. This ABC News special continues. Once again from Studio One in New York, Peter Jennings.
So great. I'm so glad we decided to do this.
That's going to come out so great.
I know.
And
the two of us together, you know, who would have thought of it?
Nobody would have thought we two would do it together.
I know. It's just going to be great, and I'm so excited about this.
We're going to have the little shorts and everything. It's going to look so great.
I know.
We'll have the backgrounds and all. It'll just look
wonderful,
we're going
to look so cute, you know, singing together and
Listen, everybody's still signing up. I'm thinking, look, why don't you and I, right, we'll do an act together, and we'll be probably the only boyfriend-girlfriend act, you know, and everybody knows us. We're bound to take first place, man. Let's do it.
Well,
Stop for a second, would you? We've been talking a lot on this program about the conflict between a lot of us, and we've been talking a lot about the prejudice between us. We thought it might be helpful to analyze a conflict and see if we can learn anything from that. And Jennifer and Magda and Carlos come from something called the Family Life Theater. And this is something they take around to schools to show to other kids to demonstrate conflict. So let's just let them go on with it, and then we'll try to get some advice and see what we think of what they're doing. Now, what are you guys fighting about anyway?
Well, I just found out that you're doing an act with her. What are you talking about? Listen, no, let you and let's do it. What are you going to do?
We're just going to do a rap
sing a song together. Isn't that a great idea?
A rap song?
Yeah, we're going to
rap. What do you know about rap?
What do you mean, what do I know about rap? I happen to know a lot about rap, okay? I love rap.
Oh, really? Yeah? How many female Jew girl rappers do you know?
Oh, come on, Carlos. There's a lot of white rappers. Come on.
Yeah, I know. All right? Get the what I say.
Yeah.
Yo, you know how everybody talks about you in this school, man? You know, they're always saying, oh, you know Magda, you know light-skinned Magda. She thinks she's white, and she talks white, and she acts white, and she's a white wannabe. You're gonna get up there and sing with this girl.
Does that bother you?
Well, obviously it does bother you.
No, what obviously bothers me is you know? Yeah, Sister Jew, you know? Getting up there, and what are you gonna sing? Some Jewish rap song?
Stop for a second. Can I just ask the rest of you kids, does this sound real to you? Is this the kind of argument you might hear in a high school somewhere? Okay, keep going.
I mean, this is ridiculous. This is so stupid. Oh, yeah, boy, there she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it's Sister Jap, and you're going to come out and sing, so let's pump up the jam. Pump it up really grand. You know what I mean?
No, you know what? I mean, you're Puerto Rican, right?
That's right.
Right, so I just bet, no matter what you do, I mean, you'll win this talent show because, you know, you'll have your 20 sisters, your 11 brothers, your 5 stepfathers cheering you, and and that one sister of yours, you know, Conchita, I hear she just loves to party.
Yeah,
Carlos, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?
Well, he started it. I didn't start it.
You shouldn't have said that to him. ¿Y tú qué te pasa? What's wrong with you?
Yo.
Yeah, yo.
Stop again. We'd like to maybe now begin analyzing this, and if Oh, a lot of hands up here, over there. I can't see your name from here. You in the blue sweater. What's your name? What's going on, Chris?
Well, they're kind of fighting because she's like white and all, and he knows her longer, and he'd rather do it with her instead of her doing it with him.
It's because I'm Jewish.
Do you think he's upset because she's Jewish?
Yes.
Okay. Over here behind me on the right, Ty, what do you think's going on?
Well, I think he's using race as an excuse. She just wants to do it something with his girlfriend. It's really not race. He's using race as an excuse.
Okay, what do you think?
I think that he's, saying that she's white, so she definitely can't rap. Because white people can't rap, and of course, because that's a black thing, and that's totally not true. Because people talk to me, they say, well, why are you dressing in Nikes? Why do you have your pants baggy? That's the way I want to dress.
Commercials are not allowed here, please. Thank you very much. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, I'm Jewish, and I personally would be very offended if somebody said that to me, and I just walk away from whoever that person was, and anybody said that to me, I just walk away.
Now, you notice today we've listened to a lot of young people, and that's exactly the way it be. Would you mind listening to an older person for just a second? Because with us is a sociologist named Samuel Betances, who comes to us from northeastern Illinois and spends a lot of time trying to understand the kind of conflict we're hearing this morning. What's going on, Sam?
What's going on is competition, and that sometimes gets into conflict, and then people point to gender, or they point to race, or they point to color. It's not about color, it's about an excuse. The other script is that the Puerto Rican has a lot of families and a lot of stepfathers and a lot of party. And unfortunately, what's going on is that people are trying to compete with each other, and they're trying to drive each other out so that they can make coalitions. What we've got to remember is that what's going on here is basically there are not enough positions for everybody. Tragically, in the media, we already get the scripts. Every fourth time you see a Puerto Rican on TV, we're committing a crime. Women are supposed to play only a support role, and black people are rappers and basketball players. The fact of the matter is that we're all God's children, and we can do what we set our minds to do, and we need to work together.
Microphone way up the top, I think it is Jenny. Yes, Jenny.
When you think of prejudice, you think of a white person prejudiced against a black person or a Puerto Rican, and right now it's showing that it's not only white people that are prejudiced. This person here is prejudiced against a white person.
That's very interesting that you picked up on that. Can we go over here now to Debbie? Can you give Debbie a microphone quickly?
In my school, the Japanese children, since we have several, they're often excluded because of their color, because of their race. And the American kids all think that the Japanese kids are weird or different, or they're all smart at math. And the Japanese girls go out and they form a little group of all the Japanese girls in the grade, and they just walk around together because they, the Americans just don't make them feel comfortable.
So you recognize what's going on over here, do you?
And I'm Jewish and Japanese, and in my school there are many Jews, so we don't have a Jewish problem.
Okay. Now, can I just point out to people at home who may be wondering why we have not taken yet a telephone call from a hearing impaired or a speech impaired person? It's because we've been having trouble getting the system to work because it has been so overloaded by people wanting to call in, and we apologize to those of you who are trying with great difficulty. But we have a call now, so let's listen to it. It may be related to this subject. I have to read it, I beg your pardon. Go ahead. It comes from Karen, who's age 35 in New Jersey, an adult person. Do the kids think that laws should be used when reason can't change people's minds about prejudice? Okay, Karen, thanks very much. Let's apply it to this situation. If these three kids, first of all, do we think these three kids are doing anything against the law? No. Could we make a law to make them get along better? So, Galen Kirkland, you deal with this kind of thing every day. How are we going to get it fixed?
Well, there's a real problem here because we have a First Amendment in our Constitution that protects free speech. And even though there are local jurisdictions that have tried to have disorderly conduct laws to deal with abusive speech, they haven't really been held up. So what we really have to deal with here is not just a legal solution, but a solution in terms of educating people so they understand that they're using stereotypes to bash one another, injuring themselves and everybody else in the process. We've got to get people who are talking like this to one another to really think about what they're doing and to understand the destructive impact of using the terms and the assaults that they're using.
But I'm going to feel very frustrated if we don't get it resolved. You kids aren't going to get this resolved, you three, are you?
Yeah, but you're right, because I don't have so many stepfathers and I don't have 11 brothers and 15 sisters.
How's about they do a trio? Could they all do it together? Eh? Well, hands up all of those who think they should go away and do it all three, a rap group of three. Okay? Thank you, guys.
All right. Can we just say that we're not, Carl, we're not these people, we're just acting, right?
Yes, okay. I will tell them. They are just actors, by the way. Let me just repeat that Carlos and Jennifer and Magda are just their stage names. And I know Sam Batanzas, you want to make an observation about this.
A quick one. We keep talking about colors and eyes and religion and all of this stuff. The real blame is on the fact that some people put a negative meaning on those things. And when I was a child, I always wanted to have good hair. When white people play basketball, they would go like this, and I always wanted to do that. And then black folks came around and said that black was beautiful, which did not mean that white was ugly. And I began to embrace myself in the beauty and diversity in which I was made. So my point is this: don't change your color, don't change your gender, change the meaning we put on color. Reject rejection, not reject yourselves.
Hear, hear.
That's the important thing.
We will be right back. I'm so glad to see all those hands up. We'll be right back in just a second.
Which is better? The word digital originally meant fingers. And since most people learn to count on their fingers, digital came to mean by numbers. Digital measures the wave into a series of numbers. Here the
But one young lady has been bugging me like nobody's business since the beginning of this program, haven't you? And why are you bugging me?
Because I want to ask Frank, why...
You want to go and talk to him?
Do you hate other kind of people that aren't like you?
You go and take this microphone over. She's been saying this to me at every... Go on over and talk to him beside her. You've been saying this to me at every commercial.
Do you think you're scared just because of other people, when not because they're just different?
No, I don't. I ain't scared. I ain't nothing. I ain't afraid of anybody else. I'm so proud of my race, and I would, like I said, I would live or die for my race if anything ever came down to it. And I would.
Then why do you have that kind of writing on your head?
Because I'm just proud that I'm from Philadelphia, so I have a made in Philly on my head.
Jillian, come on back here for a second. You don't think it's okay for him to have writing on his head?
I don't think it's right for him to shave his head and look like a skinhead. Maybe it might scare other people.
Well, do you know something? Maybe you didn't like what Frank said, or you don't like the way he looks.
I'm thinking that other people might be scared because I don't really like skinheads because they might hurt other people.
You had a bad experience with so-called skinheads before? Oh, I see. But has he said anything today that really hurts you?
My dad said you should say, why does he hate other people?
Well, do you hate other people, Frank? He doesn't. He says he doesn't hate other people. So you really shouldn't judge him just on how he looks, should you?
Well, are you a Nazi?
In some sense of the way, you could say that, yes.
You are a Nazi?
Yes. I mean, you can't really be a Nazi. You had to live back in the 30s and the 40s in Germany to be a Nazi, but people nowadays call us neo-Nazis. Well, I call myself either a white power or a white separatist.
Well, I don't quite know where to take this one. I think you guys... Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to talk to my brother and to all the people. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having the show because I think it's really important that America has an opportunity to see this creation happening. But I think it's real important. Dr. Elliott or Professor Elliott said talking isn't good enough. taking it one step further is creating together. And
you're talking to Frank here now?
I'm talking to Frank because I think the essence, unfortunately, part of what you're missing in your life is experiencing who I am. Okay? And what I mean by that is we can have an opportunity to create, to build. If you have a sister, maybe I can have your sister's child, and you can see that there's nothing wrong with me. There's no point in being a separatist because the environment is depleting. And if you like it or not, we're going to destroy ourselves. So we really need to band together. We really need to understand that we are God's children, like this doctor said. So I hope that you can take something with you.
I want you to give that microphone to Ashley for a second. Now, I got to tell you, the moment I hear the word Nazi around here, I get shivers up my spine, but I also think of Ashley. Because we were going to devote the last segment of this broadcast of this morning to showing the rest of us that there were real opportunities for us to take a lead against prejudice. And Ashley is one of those people. Ashley, tell us what happened, what you did.
Well, I was watching the news, and I saw a broadcast about a Nazi video game being sold in Germany, Austria, and underground in the U.S. In this game, you try to kill as many Jews and Turks as you can. You earn money to buy gas chambers and other things. And I decided to make a petition because I didn't feel that anyone should have the right to play a video game that is killing a certain type of people, or it's just killing and it's promoting genocide, and children play these video games. So I made a petition to stop it, and with 2,000 people signing it, it went to the Assembly Committee through the Jewish Federation, and then the ADL, Melanie Mark of the ADL helped me, and she nominated me for a Reebok Human Rights Award. But this at the Assembly Committee, my idea of the petition became a bill that nobody could sell or legally distribute this video game. So now I think that they made a deal with Austria and Germany that this game cannot be imported into the US.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I'd like you to meet someone else who just goes to prove that it isn't how you look, but it's what you can do. And your name, I know, is Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. You've been sitting behind me all this time, and I've been ignoring you, and I apologize. And sometimes in your school, they call you White Owl, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, does that hurt when they call you that?
Definitely.
Yeah, what does it mean?
Well, it's only white out because of the color of my skin, and they don't bother to look at me for who I am. So it's really hard for me to make friends because, like someone would tell you, oh, that girl stinks. You wouldn't go near her because they said she smells. So if they're going to say she's white out, you're not going to go near her because she's not cool.
And you were the albino that Michael was referring to when he was talking about skin color,
right.
Wasn't he? Right. And one of the things we know about Jasmine is that she has a great deal of difficulty seeing in the light like today. But even though she can't see as well as other of us, boy, can she dance. We'd like you to take just a little look at this. Want to go to Angie? Where's Angie? Let's go ahead. Hey, that was wonderful. And where is Angie from Oakland, California? Angie? Give Angie a microphone quickly, would you please? Because I know what you did, but I'm not sure what everybody else did. And here's another example of how you're able to do something if you work hard enough to do it. Boy, now I know why Phil Donahue carries that microphone around all the time. Yes, Angie.
Okay, I'm from Oakland, and there's a community-based organization called Pueblo. It's People United for a Better Oakland, and they were working around a lead campaign, and they invited me and my mom in, and we started working with this organization. And there had been a youth group the previous year, and, because of all this stuff, it had, fallen apart. So they thought they would build my leadership and, rebuild YOU again. And we reorganized it around a textbook issue. That was the Houghton Mifflin series, which they were trying to implement into the Oakland schools. And I went to school board meetings, spoke out, did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, and we had the textbooks rejected. But now that we see that, you know, we've gone to different schools and we see that they're using them in the schools even after we've rejected them. So now we're still working around them. But we felt that they were racist, stereotypical, and biased, and totally contradicted everything that people have worked for.
And you really made an effort to get them changed. That's terrific. You have a wide shot out there. Now, very briefly, because we are running out of time, I'd like to go out to Montana again, because Curry, you've been listening to us today. You got some advice for us today based on what you've heard?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I admire the girl who said something about the Nazi games, and I wanted to say something. If they can get that tape off the market, then they should take off the movies that the Indians are always killing the whites, the cowboy and Indian thing.
And I wonder if we, Curry, thank you very much. You've been very patient. I wonder if we could take a wide shot on the camera just to show you again the beautiful countryside in which Curry lives. She actually lives on a ranch, and she's got a wonderful horse, and she wins a lot of races at rodeos. And that, of course, is the famous battlefield from the Battle of the Little Big Horn, where there's a monument to General Custer, and soon there will be a monument to the Native Americans who fought there as well. Now, we've talked a lot about inspiration today as well, and we've heard a lot of very inspiring people, and we've also met a group who have their own way of trying to inspire people. They're called City Kids, and they're from here in New York City, and they've all come together with some of the same questions that we've all had today, and in trying to communicate their answers about how we're all one to other people, they've decided to go out and entertain other people, and we're going to hear that. City Kids.
Among all the hate, and among all the terror, among tears and among plight, among all the pain of war and confusion that clouds my sight,
among all the prejudices, both in between races and the same, there stands one thought in my mind that's in a continuous series of musters. What makes this planet great is the beauty that lies among colors. But think again. Everything were black and white.
There would be no love for music and art, no love for the very thing called life. So chin up, my friend, fear not for your different brothers. Hate not, but enjoy the fact that you're among colors.
Believe that we can never be one race, for they cannot see all that God has given to us. Dig in your heart, I know you can trust, so believe, 'cause faith sets you free. Children, stand listening to me, 'cause we know that this can't go on. Too many babies dying. This is wrong, wrong.
Again, I felt pain. 2 little children were victims of a gang. Senselessly denied dignity. I searched my soul to keep my sanity. Now I believe that truth sets us free. Can all God's children
right back with a final word.